Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, the Enterprise Strategy Group Economic Value Analysis of Human. We're so excited that you're here. This webinar is going to cover the findings from an ESG analysis of Human's product portfolio. My name is Rosemary Cipriano. I am the senior content writer here at Human. And I am joined here by Nathan McAfee and Peter Craig. Nathan is the Senior Economic Analyst at ESG. He has over 20 years of experience quantifying the economic impact of change. And prior to joining ESG, Nathan was at Microsoft and was a high school aviation and robotics instructor. Nathan, what is your favorite robot? That's a question we love to ask here at Human.
Well, probably my favorite. So it near the end of the year, you try to just keep the kids engaged at something. So I challenged them, and we built robots that would climb the stairs.
Oh wow!
But once they figured out how to do that, they started doing robots that would climb the stairs and then push out and start to climb the walls. And that all went great until it went up, and as the stairway turned, went over, came down, crashed everywhere, disrupted everything. We had the best time with it. Probably my favorite robot of all the ones that the students ever built was the one that not only climbed the stairs, but climbed a wall, which I didn't think was possible. But it's just shocking if you give high school kids freedom and just, let them do what excites them, the amazing things they come up with. It's 30 ideas or just smack your head ridiculous, but the 31st is genius.
That is so amazing. And I think the first time we've ever gotten an answer like that when asked what your favorite robot is. So thank you so much, Nathan. Next, we have Peter Craig. He is our Director of Product Marketing at Human. He has worked in cybersecurity for more than 20 years, mostly in product marketing, but also in sales engineering and enablement. Peter just loves helping organizations find the right security product for their business. Now, Peter, I'm going to ask you, and I think I've asked you this before, but what is your favorite robot?
Yeah, so it hasn't changed. It's Marvin, the paranoid android from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because it was one of my favorite books as a teenager, and it still continues to be so. It's very funny.
I love it. Thank you so much, Peter. And in case anyone was curious, my favorite robot is Karen from SpongeBob, because I think she's just hilarious. So in this webinar, we are going to be discussing the challenges that businesses face to secure their digital journey. We're going to be talking about the ESG Economic Validation process. And then we're also going to look at Human and our focus on profitability, visibility, and control and risk during this economic environment. So a couple of housekeeping items before we begin. All participants are in listen-only mode right now. And we also encourage everyone to ask questions during the session. You will see a Q&A tab. Please ask your questions. We're going to try to hold some time for the end to discuss some of those. And with that, I believe it's time to pass it off to Nathan and Peter and tell us all about the findings. Go right ahead.
Well, perfect. When I go into a project, my job is to try to look at what gets people out of the middle. What is the pain that really pushes them out of their current situation, or what's the pull that yanks them towards a new capability? So the first thing I really do is to try to figure out the challenge. What is the pain in their current situation? With this one, I really started with the digital attack vectors, and I tried to figure out, okay, which one is the bad one? And really worked with ESG has ESG Enterprise Strategy Group has analysts in just about every field. So I worked with them to try and understand, which one's worse? Is it bots? Is it malware? And it might be a question back to you, Peter, because as I went through and as part of this process, I interviewed a lot of customers in different industries, different sizes, different types of business. And I found stories in each one of these attack vectors that made me think, my goodness, no, this one's the worst. So in your mind, is there a worse when we look at specific the pain that pushes somebody out of their current state?
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a worse. Certainly all those vectors that you can see on the slide here are important vectors. There's bots. used by fraudsters and cyber criminals to conduct automated attacks. There's malware that's delivered by malvertising attacks. Then you've got malicious humans that can take over accounts on your platform, steal from your customers, and perhaps damage your brand. And then spoofed devices that pretend to be human. Perhaps they're hiding behind a real home user IP address. And on the right-hand side, we can see that these things are increasing. Now, these stats are from Human's annual automated threat report. Now, more than half of all internet traffic can be attributed to bots. Bots are part of everyone's daily life. You've got search engine web crawlers, you've got chat bots, you've got virtual assistants, which are all good bots, but they can also be bad. And you can see here in this chart that bad bots are up by 106%, which is a doubling of bad bots. There's been a doubling in carding attacks, where bots steal money from accounts to purchase gift cards or goods that can be converted to cash. And then there's also been an enormous increase in web scraping, 240%. And of course, your competitors can use this to gain an unfair advantage on your business, where they resell it or repost it to get your users to visit another website. So yeah, the digital journey is absolutely full of challenges.
Perfect. The data that my analysts have pulled up for 2023 shows numbers even worse than this. Shows the growth year on year is, I don't know if it's going to be an exponential, but it's getting even worse. Does Human have any data from this year? I mean, is it leveling off at all, the frequency of the attacks?
Yeah, I don't think we see any leveling off. You bring up a good point. We are just about to release our latest automated threat report, which is coming before the end of this month. So everybody on the webinar, please look out for that. It will be a great resource for you to look at.
Okay. And then also, and if it's something we'll talk about later, tell me, something that came out, I've got a quote that I pulled up to talk about, was one of the customers I interviewed said, we don't see static, dumb attacks anymore. And then they talked me through, it's not just the frequency, but it is the intelligence that are put into the attacks, and the way these attacks are able to morph, that they attack. It's I mean, do you have anything to add about the intelligence of the attacks as well as the frequency?
Yeah, so a good example would be the spoof devices that you can see on the slide here. So whereas previously a botnet might have come from a small number of IP addresses, and that was relatively easy to determine where the attack was coming from and block them. Today, botnet owners, botnet operators will use thousands of different IP addresses from home users and cycle through those to try and evade traditional defenses like web application firewalls. And that's why Human believe we need a more sophisticated approach to dealing with these types of attacks.
Okay. So if we look, I've mentioned the report a couple times, and I want to just sort of do a level set of what we did. So this is an economic-based report. What we did is try to quantify the business impact of change. So we built a comparative company based on a mesh of the different companies we interviewed for the project. We looked at their pain points and their pull points, and we quantified the impact of different different attack vectors, different types of attacks, and opportunities or things that Human enabled once they adopted your technologies. So in addition to interviewing customers, we created a pretty deep financial model. We took that financial model and we vetted it across sample companies of multiple different types and sizes, just to make sure that the logic in the model was somewhat linear across the companies. And we'll talk about a few outlier companies that had some very interesting use cases, but we wanted to make sure that the results presented in this paper were reasonable across the different sampled companies that we modeled. Additionally, Enterprise Strategy Group has analysts in just every major industry. We looked across different industries, different technologies, and made sure that we got their input, as well as just digesting every piece of publicly available information that we could, existing case studies, information that human provided, just anything that we could to make sure that we presented a full story. I wanted to make sure that as we went through here, the things that we identified and quantified were reasonable and would resonate with the readers. So I believe at the end, Rosemary will tell us how to find this, where you can get a copy of this. So as we look through, one of the first things that I really heard from the customers is we were okay at identifying and protecting one area, but if we looked at the full life, from the, hey, I want to get a customer's interest, to I want to keep a customer as long as possible and increase the lifetime value of that customer, or even realize the lifetime value of that customer. There were so many different attack vectors that they had to understand and protect against. And Peter, I'm hoping you can take this. It's somewhat of an eye chart, but it tells a good story to me. Can you help clarify it a bit?
Yeah, so with human, we provide a modern defense. And with that modern defense, you can protect your entire digital journey on your website at every customer phase, from the initial interest through lead generation, account creation, using that online account, through to your happy customer referring their experience to their friends and family. And the human defense platform is an all-in-one powerful platform that can help you protect yourself against digital attacks, against attacks targeting ads, manipulating content on your site. Perhaps they're putting spam in reviews and sending off your customers to external sites. Digital skimming, perhaps they're trying to use malicious scripts to scrape information from your web forms, account takeovers, and coupon abuse. And it's not just about bots. Human has the best defense against bots, but it also protects against all the digital attacks your website faces. And you see some of the human technologies listed beneath each attack vector. Now, as we go through this presentation, Nathan's going to talk about the economic benefits in stopping these threats to your organization. But there's also benefits in investing in a single comprehensive solution like Human provides. And with this, you can protect the entire customer digital journey.
Something else I was thinking of as you're mentioning that, Peter, the concept of technical debt. The customers that I talked to said, hey, we're in business for a certain reason, but we've had to become security experts. When we looked at it, we just first didn't understand. Now we're struggling to keep up with the different attacks. And we've been forced to make decisions that we're paying the price for now. Concept of technical debt is you make a short-sighted decision or something you were forced into doing for business reasons. But I've just finished a different study on technical debt, and the customers we talked to, the number is between 10 and 40% of their overall IT spend is squandered, is servicing or coming up with patches or remediation or some way to offset short-sighted decisions. So as we go through and we look at these, and I would like, if you have any examples you can share of companies that thought they were making a good decision to get in and address one portion of this, and then realize, my goodness, I've got to take my customer, I've got to get value out of my customer from initial interest to final thank yous. If you have any examples about technical debt, that's one that really resonates with me, and across just about every project I work at, is just the cost of short-sighted decisions.
Yeah, well, certainly some customers we know may have invested in a bot mitigation a solution, but then they've discovered that perhaps they've heard about the new PCI DSS 4.0 requirements, and then they've got to buy another solution to protect their website against digital skimming attacks and they need to buy another solution from another vendor. What we find that our customers really value our comprehensive platform and the fact that they can build on their initial purpose, their initial purchase, and add more solutions to increase their security across this complete customer digital journey.
Okay. Let's jump in and look at some of the findings. I heard so many different benefits, so many different challenges that were alleviated, pain that was overcome, and then also opportunities. But I put them in the report in 3 different buckets: profitability, visibility and control, and reduced risk. And a lot of them will sort of bleed together, and I'll talk some about that, but you can go in and get the full details in the actual report. When we looked at profitability, I saw both ends of the spectrum. The first one were costs. Everything from, I used to have this infrastructure to try to scale it, especially companies that have, ebbs and flows. I talked to one that was in was in footwear, and they would come out with limited edition models, and they would see up to a 50% increase in fraudulent events. They would see tens of millions of bot attacks coming at that certain time. But what they had to do was look at all this different traffic and scale their infrastructure up to manage their high points, so they didn't, worst case scenario, have things go down. So we heard a lot of a lot of stories, and we built our model around the ability to scale up and down as needed. And then the other end of the spectrum, hey, lowering costs is great. There's got to be that checkbox anytime you make a technical change or decision. But I heard so many stories about new revenue. Companies that said, hey, in the past, we just didn't have the story to convince our leaders, yes, we should get into this line of business. Yes, we should expand here. Yes, we should take this risk for a 4-week opportunity or something. We just would have to walk by it. And since they've gone with human, they were able to take advantage of those. So they're able to reduce their fraud. They were able to lower their costs, and they were able to find new revenue they didn't have in the past. I heard this story from multiple customers, and I'm wondering, back to you, Peter, if do you have any good examples? Do you hear stories about companies that are able to do things that they would not have in the past because of the confidence they give their leaders, that they're protected?
Yeah, certainly lots of things that they wouldn't be able to do in the past. And of course, one of them is saving that money, reducing costs on their infrastructure as a service cost. That can be drastically reduced by deploying human technology to cut the amount of bot traffic on their site.
Okay. The next thing, authentic growth, really came out, and it goes back to giving our leaders a clear view of what our true customers are. I heard examples of customers that, hey, once we went to human, we realized, in the numbers across the board, our number from Tech Target and ESG was 60 to 70%. A lot of our research of traffic is bot traffic. About 90% of that is bad bot traffic. And I've seen the human numbers are about the same, but companies weren't able to look in and really project their growth because of all that noise. And they said, I don't have the exact quote here, but they said, with human, we were able to understand what our opportunities were, who were true customers, who were actual customers, and what was noise. And it was something that really helped their leaders plan their business roadmap. Looked a lot about customer churn and frustrations of customers. There have been so many high visibility examples, recently, with everything from concert tickets to the things that are limited number, limited edition, and how many customers get frustrated because they're being forced to the secondary market. So as part of this study, I worked with a lot of your customers I interviewed to really understand what it means to them to be able to reduce their customer churn, to be able to focus their energy on what the needs of their customer instead of the noise of the bad actors out there. and what a net promoter score, or what's the value of a happy customer, talking to another one. And that's something that came out over and over again in the stories that we had. A lot of customers told me about the value of shifting from a reactive state of, hey, we're trying to be security experts and we're doing a good job, but it's hard to get these people. It's hard to plan. It's hard to keep these people. As soon as we get them in, no matter how much we're willing to pay them, they go somewhere else. And although we're in business to do, and I had examples from manufacturing, I had examples all across different industries, we were expected to be security experts. And how much it's changed our business by going to human and taking those below the line activities of how are we going to be security experts, how are we going to manage this noise coming in, to above the line activities of this is why we're in business. This is our expertise. And those stories were great, and that rolls right back into the increased, the improved profitability, the increased revenue, driving your energy into why you're in business. I had ROI examples all the way across the board. I've had so many people say just this one thing, just this one instance gave us more value than the entire yearly cost of human. So it's very hard to put on ROI. I had examples of 900%, and that was low compared to some. So because every industry was different, the ROI numbers were across the board, but they were extremely positive in every scenario that we discovered. So I've been rambling a bit. Is there any question that you have on the discussions we had around how human can change profitability?
Yeah, I was just wondering with ROI, were there particular industries where it was specifically high, or was it across all industries?
We looked. I talked to a few in ad sales. So as they were, the value of eliminating invalid traffic, there's a few different things there. So that value alone, and there was one example where for every percentage of invalid traffic that they were able to eliminate was $100,000 and it was very close to true bottom line profit. We then got into the discussion, and they found it very intriguing, but I couldn't get them to help me quantify. If you can go to the people who your customers whose ads you are selling, and assure them, I'm going to put these ads in the hands of humans, of true customers, instead of some of the fraudulent or misplaced ads. Can they sell their ads or their products for more? And that answer was yes. So I catch myself rambling a bit because I get excited when I talk about these kind of conversations, that an industry like this, there are 900% is absolutely low. When I looked at a good example was the footwear manufacturer we talked about. His big pain point was when they came out with limited editions that they were just inundated. Tens of millions of requests coming in at once trying to get a very limited set of footwear. And he said they just had no control, no ability to make sure they want their products in the hands and on the feet of their customers, not in the hands of resellers. In the end, they still sell the same amount of shoes, he said, but when we look at the lifetime value of a customer, somebody that's hanging their head, feeling the sting of, wow, I wanted to get that and I can't, that the value of that customer's lifetime just went down by a factor of 10. So that's one reason, because there's so many different unique situations. I did not find an industry in any that we studied that the ROI was low or the ROI was negative, because the people that I talked to in most cases had either tried to come up with their own system to manage this, or they had pieced together multiple systems. And they looked down and realized, my gosh, I've created so much complexity to fix a very complex problem that their costs were just almost uncalculable income, unable to be calculated in their case. So that's a long answer to your question, but the 900%, I don't think a single person that I talked to when I said, hey, this, I vetted my numbers with the customer, I think this is reasonable. They're like, absolutely, but this is low. If we bleed over into the next bucket, improve visibility and control, there was so much freedom for the human customers that I talked about in being able to focus on actual, authentic or real requests. They had to staff up. They had to worry about so much about infrastructure and people and everything else to filter through the noise. So I saw most that I saw was about 90% in bot traffic, a reduction. So is that number high, low, medium from your point of view, Peter? Or is that a good rule of thumb that most customers that come in and adopt some of your technologies can see this pretty quickly?
Yeah, I think it's a good figure. I think we can do better than that as well, but it's a good figure.
Okay. In addition to this cost savings of removing a lot of the infrastructure that they had to have for those peak moments, a lot of people talk to me about how much better their platform ran, because all of the noise, all these invalid things hitting it were being shielded. So in addition to just authentic customers getting to get through their portals or into their systems, those customers had a better experience. And then so much of the visibility and control, I put here ease of use, but one of the biggest stories was peace of mind and sleeping better at night for the people doing the work and senior leadership. I heard story after story after story of people saying, hey, we went back to our leaders and we're able to give them true projections of actual business from authentic customers and to let them sleep better at night. So anything to add here or any questions just about the how freeing it is to be able to see and understand and control the business from your actual customers can do for an organization?
Nothing to add. Only to say that I'll let the audience see a quick demo of the platform, the console, so that they can see for themselves as we get to the end of the slides.
That'll be good. I heard from a lot of people about how good the platform was at taking a remarkably complex environment and just making it clear and simple. So I heard a lot of good stories about ease of use and completeness, how it, they still had control, but they were able to do it well. And then the one that permeates across about everything is just the reduced risk. And I heard a lot of stories, not just the bottom line cost of fraudulent transactions, but how that permeated across their business. How one company that I talked to gained a bad reputation, because of all the fraudulent traffic that was happening and going through, through their systems, and how they've been able to turn that around. So with the risk, there's the financial risk, but reputational. There's a great quote in the paper, and I don't have it pulled up exactly, but there's a great quote in the paper, and he said the real value here is our reputation. We are selling our reputation. We are trying to maximize the lifetime value of a customer, and humans allowed us to do that. Too many examples, and said the average attack, internal or external espionage. I went into this project thinking I had a good group on. I heard a lot of stories of internal espionage, of employees leaving, doing certain things, and the clarity that human was able to bring helped again assure senior leadership that yes, we're protected externally and internally. A number that I saw in 2021 was the latest number, the 307% increase in account takeovers. So Peter, what is there something in the industry? Why is that number going up so much for people just taking over an account and, doing malicious things or draining the value out of it?
Yeah, I think what I would say is that, over the last few years, over the pandemic, many organizations have taken more and more of their business online. They've accelerated their digital transformation to be able to provide their products and their services to their customers digitally, rather. And I think that acceleration of the digital transformation has also accelerated the activity of the bot owners and criminality. I think that's the reason. It's generally across the board.
Okay. The last thing to add here is a big one: staffing risks. So when you look at a risk, and it was hard to quantify the number, but the quote that came out over and over is, the people to help me do this are very hard to find, but even harder to keep. And one thing that human did for them was to completely take that risk away. They knew they were able to hand it over to expert level, and they didn't have the worry of, if this person leaves, what happens to us, both in the planning and implementation phases of their protection, their protection plans. Can you tell us a little more about this, Peter?
Absolutely. And so this really is about what makes human different. And if I was going to ask you, Nathan, or you, Rosemary, what's the one thing that you possibly find hard to avoid if you open up your web browser, or you open up your newspaper, or you look at the sidings that are along the highway as you go to work? There's one thing that we all see. Some of us love them, some of us don't. Alongside the content you see every day. Anybody tell me what that is?
Oh, that's going to be advertisements and things that I'm just not sure if I should click on.
So absolutely. So it's advertising, and actually it's one of the things that makes human different is advertising. Now, I'm sure you know that every time an ad is served to you, it's gone through an auction process, a lightning quick auction process, where your attention is sold to the highest bidder. And this whole process is secured by human. And human don't want to advertise to bots. And human's business is founded on stopping unethical website publishers using bots to fraudulently generate advertising revenue by getting bots to click on their adverts. We've been doing this for more than 10 years and are the dominant supplier of bot detection technology in the advertising security market. 85% of global adverts are verified through human, and we secure 20 trillion transactions every day. So a lot of interactions. Now, we're talking about the economic benefits of human, but I want to make it clear that what's different about human is that every ad on the internet is a sensor for human. And being able to deal with sophisticated bots and digital attacks requires seeing them. And we see them all over the internet because we've got the reach, we've got the visibility that other vendors don't have. And what this means is we've seen 85% of users before they've even reached your web applications. So this is this network effect, every ad collecting signal for human. Now, not only that, we do good with this knowledge by taking down fraud operations like VastFlux and MethBot, where evidence from our threat researchers was used to prosecute and jail their leader. Now, more than 500 customers have benefited from this human defense platform. Now, on this slide, there's some logos of some of our customers. Some of them you'll recognize, some of them you won't. But there's a few there at the top that really stand out. So Google uses human. If human is good enough for Google, I'm sure you'll agree that it's good enough for most organizations. Google uses the best engineers in the world. They rarely work with vendors because they're able to build their own technology, whatever they need in-house. Our signal is so good, so precise, so efficacious. It's so good that Google chooses us. And that's why we find bots that other bot mitigation vendors do not. So what I'd like to do now is just give you a quick demo of our dashboard. So I'm just going to switch here, and I hope you all can see that. So great. So this is our dashboard. Here we have a number of dashboards. You see, we've got a general dashboard, which you're looking at the moment. We can look at different use cases. So, for example, I could look at scraping here or checkout abuse. I can filter by traffic type. So, do I just want to see web traffic, or do I also want to see native mobile traffic? And I can change the time range. And if I hover on these bars here, I can see how many legitimate requests, how many blocked requests. This is a linear view. I can switch this to logarithmic view, so I can see the small number of incidents as well that are happening in your environment. So I can see here login attempts, which ones have been successful, which ones have been failed. I can see blocked paths. I can see the top 10 incident types. And I can also see the CAPTCHA solves. Now, Human provides something called the Human Challenge, which is, we believe, the most secure and simple CAPTCHA solution on the market. But if I click one of these links, this will take me into the investigation section of the dashboard. And within here, just might take a couple of seconds to come up, I can investigate incidents in more detail. So I can see again the type related to that particular path. And then I can go into even more detail, and I can look at the forensics. And this will show me individual incidents that have happened on that particular path. Again, it'll take just a little second to load. So here I can see, here's a UI anomaly. Here's a spoof missing sensor data. And then I've also got the option to generate reports. And of course, I can export those reports or automate exporting those reports to other technologies as well. So here we go over the last few days. Apply that, and we can see if there's any events in here. Okay, just while that's loading, I'll just take a look at product settings. And here you can see our policy rules, how we deal with known bots and crawlers. And also here are some volume-based rules, so I can see what I'm going to allow through using our bot mitigation product. Okay, so I'm going to end the demo there. And
let me ask you a question that popped in my head while you do that, Peter, when you're showing the slides of the different customers. How does one company benefit from the findings of another company? How does Human use the knowledge of a certain threat in one area, industry, or geo and apply it to others?
Yeah, well, that's really the network effect that I mentioned earlier, Nathan. Where we're one of the great things about Human is that we're using the collective knowledge of all of our customers to protect all of our customers, new or old. And I mentioned that word collective. We've actually created something called the Human Collective, which brings organizations together from across the digital ecosystem to share resources, knowledge, and insights, so that together we can protect the internet from bot attacks, fraud, and account abuse. So this is something that's been going since about 2021, and it continues to grow. And we're always bringing in new organizations to support this collective defense.
I love this middle quote. This middle ones I heard from so many different customers is we had, they use the word instant. We had instant visibility into what was happening in our network, and we've never had that. But this middle one, that just didn't come from one of my interviews. This one that came from you, but it resonated with so many different people that they received more insight in 2 weeks than they had in the last 2 years combined. So I can tell you that was true across every person that I talked to.
Yeah, and we've got a great team in our customer success team in our operations center that really do help our customers and provide extra value and help them get the most out of our solutions. And then again, the third quote there, we estimate recovering $1 to $2 billion per year of revenue lost to marketing fraud. Now, if that's not an economic validation, I'm not sure what is.
That's why the ROI number was so hard, because I heard so many stories that were astronomical. This changed the way we could approach our business. This changed the way we could approach the life cycle of a customer. So I definitely agree with that quote, and I heard it across multiple customers.
Okay. All right. Well, just before we stop for questions, I just wanted to summarize what we've talked about here. And so Human's modern defense safeguards the entire enterprise. We help customers prevent fraud against the entire digital journey, safeguard applications against attacks. We help marketing teams reach the right audience and keep fake leads from contaminating data. We ensure high quality ad inventory reaches real humans. And we also present digital experiences that are free of fraudulent and malicious inventory across multiple verticals. And we also safeguard security, the customer journey, trust, data integrity, and return on investment. And all of this is supported by or underpinned by the Human Defense Platform. So thank you for listening. If you do want further information or you would like a demo, this is the URL, humansecurity.com/demo-request, and we'll get back to you with some help. But I think unless you have anything to add, Nathan, we'll stop there and take some questions.
No, I'd love to hear the questions.
For sure. Thanks you guys so much. This was so interesting. We have a couple questions here. So the first one is, talked a little bit about scraping that's gone up 240%. Why do you think scraping has increased so much?
Yeah, I'll take that one, Nathan, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so those data were from our 2022 report, and they were really looking at 2021 data, or as I mentioned, our 2023 report's just about to be published. And this was when many organizations moved more and more of their business online. As I mentioned, whenever Nathan asked me about account takeovers. Now, with web scraping, that's used to steal prices, to steal content, to steal product reviews and inventory. And that can be used to inform a competitor's business strategy. And web scraping tends to be one of the easier things to automate. And I think that's probably why it helps your business's competitors gain an unfair advantage over you. But it's also one of the more straightforward bots to execute, bot attacks to execute. I think that's probably why web scraping has gone up quite so much.
I talked to one specific customer, and they sold health supplements. And he said scraping was a huge problem because it allowed a small-time operator to appear to be as big as them.
Right.
And it lowered the barrier of entry to the point that end customers could no longer count on. It made companies appear more authentic than they really were. Yeah. So that it was a pain point in their industry. Just the fact that they did all the work, and some of these small wannabes would take their information and present it as theirs.
Right, and you don't know if they're legitimate too. So yeah. Very cool. Okay, and then next we have a question. Say that the average attack goes unnoticed for 60 days. How does Human help with that?
Right. So Human prevent bots. So we stop them before they get into your web application. However, there may be occasions where a bot does manage to steal some credentials, and some attacker is able to gain control of some accounts on your platform, and that's where you need another layer of security. And we've got something called Account Defender. And what that does is monitor accounts after they've logged in. So what we look is for evidence of fraudulent or abusive activity, and then we alert you and help you stop that activity. So it's not just about the gaining access to the site. It's about what happens if somebody does gain access to the site. We can help with that as well.
Yeah, and I heard stories about the reduced noise, because so much of the noise of the invalid traffic was taken away. You now see what's normal in your systems, so you can recognize, something that might eventually get through. You can recognize it and see it quicker. So much of the story that I heard was around noise reduction.
Very interesting. Yeah. And we always talk about our disruptions and takedowns. That's our third pillar of modern defense. And that means that we have a team of people called the Satori team that literally spend their time finding these threats before they find anyone else. So that's also just a whole plus to this entire situation, especially when it comes to attacks going unnoticed, is that you have a dedicated threat hunting team that's looking for you in the places that you don't want to look. So thanks, y'all. And then the third one we have here, they said that they noticed some key components of the platform was integrations. What kind of integrations do you offer?
Okay, so we provide a modern defense, and as you'd expect, we integrate with modern web application and internet technologies. So we integrate at the edge with things like Fastly, so content delivery networks like Fastly and Cloudflare and Amazon and all of the clouds. We integrate with load balancers and web servers like Apache and Nginx, with identity management platforms like Okta and Ping, and then with other technologies like Sneak and Splunk and e-commerce platforms. So all the web application technologies that you would expect from a modern defense and a leader in application security.
Let me throw one thing in that I heard in some of the interviews, Peter, because the question might be leading this way, was some of the freedom that Code Defender gave companies to use third-party scripts and APIs, and how much more value they were able to get out of marketing scripts, or how much more accurate information they could give to the marketing departments from scripts that were used that they weren't able to use in the past. So I don't know if the question was there, but I think there's a great story to be told, or I heard great stories because of what Code Defender allowed them to do, some of the flexibility they didn't have in the past.
Yeah, so what Code Defender does is give our customers the visibility into the scripts that they're running on their website, and also the ability to ensure that malicious scripts don't steal any data from, for example, payment pages on the organization's website. And I mentioned PCI DSS 4.0 earlier in the webinar, and I think because of the new requirements in that set of rules, we're going to see a lot more organizations looking for a solution like Code Defender as we head into the next couple of years, where those become requirements for anybody taking payments on their site. And perhaps that's a good place to end, because if you would like any further information about any of the solutions that we've talked about, please feel free to contact me on the email address there that you can see on the screen, or to make that request at the URL you can see there on the slide as well.
Excellent. Well, that's all the questions we have. So thank you so much, Nathan and Peter, for such an informative session. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Just so you know, there's going to be the on-demand version of this episode. It'll be available shortly. There's also plenty of resources, including the report that talks about all of this, in the attachment tab, or you can look on the Human Security website in our resource center. So thank you all for joining us, and thank you for your time. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
All right. Been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.